apologize first. I'm pastor. I'm going to use the same introduction they did, and I'm an LPC because they said that. I thought I'd go and say that too, but I don't have a practice. The concerns that we have spiritually, I think, affect everything else that we're doing. I'm a preacher, so I'm apologizing because as soon as I finish, I have to leave. I'm a pastor, and so I got a funeral in just a little while. And so I've got to take care of that. So I wanted you to know I'm not going to, it's not I'm doing my little stuff and getting gone, but I've got to do that today. So I apologize that Drew's already aware of it. Let me start. I need a timekeeper. Okay. Okay. What time am I supposed to be finished? Okay. Oh, stop, Drew. You're using up my seconds. Okay. I know that I have never made an appointment with my primary care physician or gone to an urgent care facility or an emergency room and said to them, I came because I'm feeling really good. We never look for help unless we need the help. The staff at any of these facilities don't expect to see me on their paperwork saying that I'm on the list I'm giving you of how I feel and what's going on. They don't ever look for, I'm feeling just fine, because I have no business being here if I feel just fine. We only seek expertise when we need help. We only pursue when we need help. Your focus, where men hurt spiritually, I think when we first talked, I think the word you gave me was where men hurt, and it had, I think it was spirit. It didn't say, it said spirituality when we first started. And I looked at that and I thought, I can't talk on that. And it was a mistake. When I got the next copy, it was spiritually. And the reason I say that is because everybody, whether we know it or not, all of us have spirituality. I'm not going to talk, I'm a preacher. I'm not talking about a higher power. I'm talking about the highest power. I'm not talking about the man upstairs. There's no man upstairs for me. What I'm talking to you about is what I'm commissioned to do, and to talk to you from the perspective of the Creator, and that Creator is God. And for what He has sent to us, and that is His Son, it is the remedy. But when a physician or a nurse practitioner or whoever it is that you go to see, their first inquiry is, what brought you to us? Why'd you come today? There must be something that you can present to them that they call symptoms. You initially ask, what is the nature of your pain? They start with, well, when does it hurt? On what occasion do these symptoms show themselves? Sometimes we say, well, it's right after I eat, or as soon as I wake up in the morning, or it hurts when I lift my head or move my arms. It hurts after my exercise. It hurts when I stand, or when I move, or when I engage in something that identifies for them the time, and you're also revealing where it is you hurt when you say it. But our focus today, and let me say also, they want to know, is it pain that comes and goes, or is it constant? Do you know when to expect that pain? Do you anticipate it? And sometimes in our situation, it's so chronic, till I was listening to a man the other day who says, I hurt all the time. He said, when do you have I hurt all the time. I'm always in pain. Sometimes it's not as intense as other times, but I'm always in pain. And I believe that sometimes, even though we don't know it, something is wrong. You see, we never know something is wrong until there is presented some kind of system. And when we talk about the hurts of men, I believe that women are more prone to go to the doctor than we are. As a matter of fact, I think they examine themselves more than we do. And even when symptoms present themselves, we're going to walk it out. Or are we going to self-medicate? Are we going to find a remedy? We're going to check with somebody, what you taking? And what helps, because I know this is not going to last, it's just going to be temporary. So we apply some temporary thing to it. And we're good at doing that. The question then is, where does it hurt? It's in my chest. That gives the doctor some information. It's in my head. Gives him some information. Well, it's in my legs. That's where my pain is. It's in my hands. It's in my ears. It's in my eyes. Now, if I were at home and we were preaching, I'd make every one of those things spiritual, but I won't do that. The process of gathering that information is called a diagnosis. Today's theme is not when men hurt, but where they hurt. You see, the assumption is made that men hurt, and we do. So the issue is not when, it is where. Where are we hurting, and what do we need to do about that? I'm going to say that the way we look at it is at our symptoms. Let me tell you, for men, what we see. We see anxiety. Many of us are anxious. Sometimes we can't even identify what we're anxious about, where our anxiety is coming from. But many of us are anxious. We are apprehensive, and we're worried, and we're restless. We may not say that, because that's another problem that we have. We can't acknowledge that we are short in something. We're not supposed to be short in anything. So we have, it's expressed, other symptoms are in anger. We become bullies. I know I'm not in church, but just kind of do it like this every now and then. Do you understand? We become bullies. We're angry all the time. We have anxiety all the time. And often we're angry with ourselves. We have these goals we've set. We're not reaching them. Something must be wrong with me, but we don't like to say something is wrong with me. So it usually comes to, if you would do this, then I could do this. Those are symptoms. We are rageful. Sometimes we're out of control with I call them our man emotions. We don't cry, we just yell. You know, we don't run away and hide. We fight. We start fights. Our discontentment, our dissatisfaction. I think one of the things that drives us is something the Lord said to me one time. Something was going on, and I was saying, we need enough. He says, you never have enough. No matter what I give you, it's never enough. You have a pursuit in you I got to have more. So if you accomplish this thing, it just lasts for a little while. You got to have another accomplishment, because we measure ourselves by how much we count, how many things we can count as successful. And often we do not know what success really is. We die full and miserable. There's some other things we don't talk much about. The symptoms are fear. What are we afraid of? Men not afraid. What are we afraid of? We're afraid of exposure. Our own vulnerabilities. We don't want you to see that. We really dress that up really good. Our insufficiencies. We know it, but we don't want anybody to know what they are. Our inadequacies, we fear that. I was in a discussion once, and a man asked my wife, he said, what's your husband afraid of? And I was wondering, what's she going to say? She said, he's really only afraid of one thing. And I was really waiting there. He said, he's afraid of failure. I thought about that. That's been many years ago, but I thought about, is my fear of failure driving me to try to grasp things that's really not in the plan of God for me? driving me to things that I could be successful in this area, but because I need to feel that I haven't failed, I don't know that some things I'm in have nothing to do with the end producing the product that I thought it would, but the growth that God is giving me for something even greater sometimes. Sometimes I learn more. Well, usually I learn more from my failure than I learn from my success. I'm not looking for better when I'm successful. I'm looking to see what I can do so that I don't fail the next time, not knowing often that I did not fail. It's just that my goal was different than his goal. It's exposure of our deficiencies. We are great measurers. Am I right? Yeah. We are great measurers. When we stand to talk with somebody, when we stand to talk with another man, we start immediately comparing. You know, I'm 5'5". I'm 5'5". You 6'7", and when I stand to you, I do this. I mean, I just automatically rise. You know, we are always comparing ourselves with others. We gauge our success or how well we're doing by how well the person is in front of us. And we sometimes feel better because I'm just 2 inches taller than you. But we feel better because we are competitive. Sometimes the symptoms are abuse, mistreatment, mishandling of others, and also mishandling of ourselves, our relationships. And we're destructive to others and destructive to ourselves. These are the symptoms that we give to the doctor. Sometimes we become artificial. We don't know. If you pose long enough, you don't know who you are. If every time something changes, you change with that, finally you don't know who you genuinely are. I had a dynamic pastor when I first came to the Lord. I was a freshman in high school, and he was a nationally known evangelist, and he was a powerful man in ministry and the things that he did. And he was probably, at that time, he was probably in his 50s, late 50s. And I was 19, 20 years old. And I had another friend, and he was a minister. And that pastor had a limp, and he lived a rough life before he came to the Lord. He still had a bullet lodged in his body, and so it handicapped him some. And so even when he would rejoice, he would walk out and he just kind of move that leg a little bit. And when he was what we call the anointing, he would just work on that. So I had a friend, and the friend was about my age. And so when he started when he'd go out to preach, he would walk out and he'd do the same thing, and he'd limp. And so I said, man, I said, Simon, who are you? Man, you're 25, and all your mannerisms are like Elder Mitchell. You have, and I added, you have his mannerisms, but man, you don't have his anointing. We have to know who we are and not be threatened because of somebody else. We really do have to practice that. We have to work on that so we know who we are and we don't have to change because we're with somebody. Thank you. I sure appreciate that. It expresses itself in obsessiveness. We need to own stuff. We're owning things because the higher my stack, the more esteem I have for myself. We're compulsive and we're impulsive. And I'm not talking to all of you. I'm just talking to those people that are not here. You see, those things are symptoms of our behavior that tell us that we are not well. And it's hard to heal someone when you're sick yourself. So when they finish the diagnostic tools, then they come with you with the conclusion. Let me tell you what the conclusion is for the symptoms that we have. It's damaged relationships. That's all it is. All of the symptoms point to the same problem: damaged, malfunctioning relationships. Relationships that begin with our relationship with God men and their relationship to God. Our relationship with our spouse. I'm telling you, marriage teaches you who you are, who you're not, what you can handle. Marriage teaches you things you didn't know about yourself.
Is that me?
Is that all right? You see, because it brings out of us relationships, it brings out truths of us, how we respond, what we value, who we think we are, been trained that we are, but all of that is challenged in a marriage. You hear? You've got to learn. You've got to learn that being a man doesn't particularly mean your wife's going to treat you like you think you ought to be treated. Now, I'm not going to talk about wives today. I'm going to talk about our response to that. What we really are then is developed often in a marriage. It is revealed to us what we would not like to know, and then it brings out of us some things, even some good things that we didn't know was in us. It shows up in our relationships with our children and those roles. It shows up in, which sounds maybe weird, but our relationship with ourselves, how we sleep or don't sleep. What we have to take in order to calm our own minds. What we have to do so that we don't have to think. Let me give an example from the Bible in my last few minutes. Let me show you what I mean when I'm talking about relationships. You see, if your first relationship is bad, then you've got a problem with many of your other relationships. Let's go to the first relationship. First relationship was between Adam and God. It is insinuated that Adam and God had a relationship that had really had no boundaries. That they were. I say this. That's not in the Bible, but I say that there was no need for language. I believe when I look back, I believe that the communication is like we do in prayer. I don't think many of us hear God speak verbally and vocally and orally. We hear it in our minds or in our spirits. We respond. I believe that communication with Adam was that same way. God knew, not because he was observant, but because he was part of Adam. He knew when Adam broke the relationship. Not because he said, look at what he did. It was, I just felt something leave me. So Adam breaks the relationship when he sinned in the garden. The first relationship he broke was his relation as connectivity with God. When you break that, then everything else is affected. I need you to understand, I think we have so many great things that help us. I hope what I'm saying to you today is helpful. We have so many advantages because we have so much intellect. But intellect without being put in action means now I'm condemned for what I know, but it just seems I can't get it done. Do you understand what I'm saying? So let's look at Adam. Let's do a diagnostic with him. The Bible says that after Adam sinned, I'm going to show you how everything else was affected. As soon as Adam sinned and his eyes were open, his role changed. God had been his covering. He'd been the one who took care of everything for him. They were in relationship with God. Adam named every species in one day. Everything. He had the mind of God. He had the authority of God in his voice. Everything in creation responded to Adam. But as soon as Adam sinned, his role changed. The things that were in him from God, when he broke that connection, now he's got to have take responsibility for some things that he had not thought of before. So let me tell you what we do when we go against what it is that God has declared for us, or the Word of God has designed for us. Let me tell you what we do. We become abusive of other things, We become abusive and we misuse things, and sometimes we call it ingenuity, creativity. So in order now to cover what didn't need covering before, the fig tree was not to provide clothing. So in his ingenuity, he goes to the fig tree to change his appearance, because now he's ashamed before God. Did you understand what I mean by that? Let's just transfer that. What we become and what we do to make ourselves presentable, because we know on the inside is not good enough. You understand? The reason we are clothed today is because there are parts of us that are private. So we cover our private parts. We're not hiding our private parts from us. We're hiding our private parts from exposure to others. At the beginning, Adam and Eve were, so there was no need to hide one from one. But once there was a separation from God, now I need to be addressed different. Ain't nobody here but y'all. So now I've got to cover, I got to cover you. And before we didn't need a covering, but because now we've broken a relationship with God, I need to cover you and I need to cover me. But the truth is, I'm not really trying to cover myself from God. I'm trying to put some distance between me and you, when actually it's God I'm ashamed before. I'll leave it. So when God comes and Adam has an opportunity to reconnect, he says, Adam, where are you? Adam says, I heard your voice walking in the garden, and I was, a new thing to him. He never experienced, I was afraid. I know we don't want to talk about that, yeah, but many of us are afraid. At every stage in our lives, if we're not careful, we'll come to a point of, I am afraid. When we're younger, I'm afraid of what I may not be able to accomplish when I'm older. I may not reach my goals. When we get older, I'm concerned about what I've done and produced behind me and how much time I have to go in front of me. When we get older, it is, has my life been sufficient? We have so many fears. Am I going to come up short? When they lay me in a casket, what will they really say that I've really done? Will people have to really think hard to remember what I have offered to the world? We have all of those fears. I feared you, I heard you, and we were afraid. It changes the role. Now you got to provide for yourself. Adam, who said, for this, told God, when he saw Eve, he said, for this a man will leave his father and his mother and cling to this. But the next relationship, he throws Eve under the bus. He throws her under the bus. We will, if it's threatening us because of our illness or our hurt, in that relationship, we throw it under the bus. Y'all don't be upset. And sometimes we just throw it off. Just, you go your way, I'm going mine. Do you understand? Because we have some brokenness in us that also causes brokenness in others. I'm running fast. And then it changed his career. It changed his job. Do you understand? That relationship with God, now his broken relationship with his role, broken the relationship of his wife, and now relationship on his job. He gets evicted. He loses his job. They move him. God moves him out of the office he has. So now he's lost his job, his career. He had the power of God, the authority of God in his mouth. He has lost that because he broke that relationship. And then we find that he had authority in his mouth to speak, and everything was under his command. But because of the broken relationship with God, now nothing responds to his voice. He's got to toil to make the ground produce. Well, I'm not good. lost my stuff. So let's look at this. So let's, in 4 minutes, let me tell you what the answer is. What's the prognosis? And Job gave it to us. Man, born of a woman, has but a few days, and they are full of trouble. But Jesus responded with, I am come that you might have abundant life. But there's a catch. When Nicodemus comes to him to find out how I can have this, he says, I'm referring back to Job, man born of a woman is full of trouble, and he has a few days. Jesus says to him, you must be born again. Now let me tell you what doctors do, or you'll watch it on commercials. There's a new drug that we have found that has shown itself to be really good for your specific disease. And they bring in the research reports, and 9 out of 10 people got well using this, and 9 people had improvement. 9 out of 10 had. The research has been done. So we go to the journal to see what research was done, how it was done, and who it affects. So it wouldn't be good for me to talk to you about where men hurts without telling you what the research says. You hear me? So let me go to this journal. It's the International Journal of Life. The chapter, the section of it is called Luke. And the portion that describes it, the situation and the research, is the 15th chapter. You know it. Some of you know. A man had 2 sons. Now listen, because you can get a prescription for this and get well. A man had 2 sons, and the younger of them, the immature one, actually, they both had some issues. But the younger one said, what we say, we step out and we mean it. We walk out as soon as we get a little hair right here. We walk out, give me mine. I demand my stuff. I got a right to this. Don't be offended, but we ain't earned nothing. I got a right. You know, a young man told his father the other day, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. He says, and I said, well, what is he? He said, and he lost his job. And what does he want to do? He wants to play games at home. I said, what did you do? I told him, the Bible told me, if you don't work, you don't eat. I'm taking the keys to the car. You ain't got no car, because if you ain't working, you ain't got nowhere to go. I'm just saying. He said, I told him, and if you ain't going nowhere, you got to pretend. You got to get out of here. And if you don't find a job soon, you're going to have to leave here, not temporarily. You got to get gone. You see, I want mine. Somewhere in the earth, when we're immature, we step out and everything's supposed to fall together. And sometimes our lives, they messed that clock up. Let me go. The young man said, give me mine. And then what he did next was put the same thing out of it. He put distance between himself and his father. Brothers, we have put distance in our attempt to be greater, to accomplish more. We have said, I know probably we didn't say it out, I don't need you, God. Or I tell you what, when I need you, I'll tell you what to give me. We have become gods who honor God. If I speak it, I can have it. Who are you? I'm a son of God. Jesus said, I came to do the will of my Father. Jesus said, my instructions come from God. And he has my life in his hand. And I don't know what it is about us that we think if we live for God, that men feel if I live for God, there's going to be a diminishing of my life. I cannot succeed. I'm telling you, that is a lie. I'm telling you, it's a lie. That God has greater for you than you expect or you can imagine. He says, eyes have not seen. I can think of some stuff. He says, ears haven't heard, and neither has it even entered in my mind. The things God has prepared for those who love him, who serve him. Quick.